And away we go.
It's the Wretched Radio Mail Call Delivery Bag Q&A Infotainment Nationwide Extravaganza, featuring your voicemails, correspondences, communiques, dispatches, memorandums, and missives.
Any special message for all the kids watching at home?
What we need right now is a clear message to the people of this country.
You have 1,200 messages.
That is a bit above average.
Now here's your host, Todd Freakishly Tall Friel.
The mail is here!
Ooh, this is Wretched Radio. Congratulations to Grace Community Church. They're going to be receiving a big check from the government to pay for legal fees. Why? Because the government told that church, stop meeting. They said initially, okay, but then they concluded as a local church, Caesar is overreaching, and they cannot supersede God's command for us to not forsake the assembling of the saints. So they decided to start worshiping again. Well, let the suing begin. Let the legislators go, because this became a big issue, and it was just announced for attempting, this is Mike Riccardi from Grace Community Church, for attempting to exercise unconstitutional public health mandates. The state of California is ordered to pay $400,000 to Grace Church, and LA County is also ordered to pay $400,000. Okay. $800,000 is what they're going to be receiving.
Good job.
That is, thank you very much. That is really great news for a really great church. Please send your emails to idea@wretched.org. Include your questions, comments, conundrums, or snarks. Please note, I really do try to be persuaded if you think I'm wrong. Do you know why I, and perhaps you, struggle to do that? I think the issue is the P word.
Pride.
Exactly. Because if I have to say, oh, you know what, you persuaded me, that means I have to be like Fonzie and admit I was Now, let's keep digging. Remember, root and fruit. You got to go down to the root if you want to understand the fruit. So the fruit, in my instance, is I don't want to admit that I'm wrong. Digging down, I discover it's pride. I don't want to have to look like I am less than what I perceive about myself. I'm concerned, aka fear of man, you're not going to think as highly of me as you ought. You're not going to share my opinion of myself. I think that is why I have the fruit, that would be the root, but I have the fruit of it's hard, but I try. I really do. I try. Our flesh can get in the way. So please, if you send something that you think that, Friel, you biffed it, I really will do my best. Can't promise I'll agree or even receive it rightly, but I'm trying. Idea@wretched.org.
All right, Rosie wrote in. She didn't indicate which state she was referring to in her email, but she said the churches in her state have followed the government's order of allowing only fully vaccinated people to enter the church. And she's wondering, is that right?
I don't think so. Who gets to decide who comes to church? Well, that would be the church itself. Matthew 18 specifically, all are welcome in a church unless they're unruly or living in unrepentant sin. It is the church that gets to decide who attends, not the government. That would be, in my opinion, an instance of Acts 4 and 5. That could be Rahab. That could be Daniel, if you prefer. We submit to government in all things unless they cause us to not submit to God. Our primary authority, the supreme king, is Jesus Christ himself. We obey him. And if a government comes along and issues a mandate that says, no, not in this instance, we say, nope, sorry, you're the government, and we strive to submit to you, but we submit not to Caesar in ecclesiastical issues. We submit to the one who owns the church, Jesus Christ. Now, some churches, let's make this a little bit more dicey. I think that's pretty clear-cut to me. Now, where this is going to get a little bit challenging is that some churches are probably going to say, okay, we'll obey. And other churches are going to say, oh, no, we're not. And I think that we need to leave room for different churches to make different decisions. But I would plead with those who are willing to shut the door on people who, for conscience reasons or health reasons, if they believe that it is a sin to do so, to say, well, you can't come in, oofda, that's making a law based on what Caesar wants and not on what Jesus Christ wants. Please send your emails to idea@wretched.org. Jimmy, hold on.
Okay.
All right, you're a pastor of a church, okay, and your state says you can only let people in who are vaccinated. You going to obey that?
No.
Mm-hmm. And the church next door also happens to be a sound Bible-believing church. Now, I know that scenario is fantastic because you never find two Bible-teaching churches next door. There may be two in a town if you're blessed. Yeah. All right, the church next door, they submit to Caesar in that regard. Would you say they're sinning?
No.
Yeah, I think it's, you know what? I have to confess, this is kind of this dicey little territory where it's like, I don't know that I would come down hard, but I'm leaning more toward, I think it might be. You're prohibiting people from fellowshipping.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, but also I guess the grand scheme of things, you need to understand why they made that decision.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it would be a willful sin. Most likely, if they're a Bible teaching church, they're probably thinking, well, this is how we love our neighbor. This is how we submit to Caesar. This is how we protect people. And so, perhaps with some good motives. Nevertheless, I'd be thinking to myself, I wouldn't condemn them. I wouldn't blog nasties about them, but I would encourage them. Who are you listening to here? Really? And I understand, because they're going to see, maybe they see the whole COVID thing, the whole vaccine thing different than you do. Well, while I'd be inclined to lean in that direction, I think I'm with you, Jimmy. I don't know that I would want to condemn a church for a decision like that. And might I add this? I don't like that. I don't like that a church would say, show me your vaccine passport in order to join us for corporate worship. I mean, I really don't like that at all. But would that mean that I could not have fellowship with the elders who made that decision? I don't think I could break over that. Can we? Should we? Isn't this one where we can at least see, all right, you got a different take on it. I don't agree with you. I think you're bordering on sinning. But brother, sister, we can live in harmony and unity together when we disagree on some of these social and now ecclesiastical issues. Please send your emails of disagreement to idea@wretched.org.
All right, from Michael. He is wondering, how long should a Christian wait to divorce their unbelieving spouse who has abandoned them?
Oh, wow.
He said everyone keeps telling him to hold on and have faith, but he finds himself yearning to move on.
Yeah. Because the Bible doesn't give a calendar, it doesn't offer a timeline. If your spouse abandons you, one of the biblical reasons that divorce is not a sin for you, your spouse has broken the covenant by leaving it. You can't be married to somebody who's not there. Having said that, I do believe that wisdom does need to apply. Just to be a little bit silly and extraordinary for a second, you and your spouse get into a fight. She leaves the house, slams the door, and goes to the mall and doesn't come back for hours. Can you divorce her? Well, you'd go, well, no, she went off to okay. She goes to her mother's house for 2 days. Did she abandon? You could get okay. So what I'm saying is, while the Bible doesn't give us a timeline, I do believe that wisdom needs to be applied with your elders in your local Bible teaching church to be wise about this. What should you consider? Well, did they move out, or did they just grab a couple of things and go? Did they start changing bank accounts, pulling their money, making some of those other credit card-like decisions that are like, hey, this thing is severed here. They're out of here. Have they moved away? I mean, closer versus further could make a difference. Are they starting to date other people? Those would be some of the measurements that I would use to carefully come up with a decision with my elders to say, tragically, my spouse has abandoned me. I have legal grounds now for divorce. And one last note. Should you have to make that decision, and you've done it wisely, prayerfully, biblically with your elders, don't look back with regrets. Don't do that to yourself. Don't second guess yourself. Be slow, be wise, be biblical, be prayerful, and don't feel guilty or terrible that you had to make a terrible decision that was really shoved onto you. This is Wretched Radio. Houston, I think we have a few problems here.
Go ahead, Wretched One.
Besides the fact I'm wearing a cardboard helmet, Houston, you have got one of the biggest false teachers in the universe. Are you kidding? He is so rich.
How rich is he, Wretched One?
I can see his house from here.